Welcome to the 30th anniversary edition of Coffee, Country, and Cody. On a day just like today in Nashville, Tennessee, 30 years ago, I got out of my pickup truck and made that walk up to the Magnolia entrance of the Grand Ole Opry Land Resort and Convention Center, and my dream had come true to make it to WSM and the Grand Ole Opry. I was 35 years old, and I've been here 30 years today.
Come on,
I pulled that baby up here like it was Ed Gaylord's limousine in front of this hotel. I know they thought Huckleberry Finn has come to town.
I love this story. That's amazing.
And that's Kelly Sutton, whom I've known for 20 years of my 30 years here, and Charlie Mattos, the same, Aaron Cooper, Annie Nye, and in Master Control, the guy who was here when we started the whole Circle Television thing, and now it's circlecountry.com, and you can link to the streaming platforms, or Circle Now, available in your app store. Joel Wilson is on the scene for a couple of days here on Coffee, Country,
the wizard.
and Cody. Yeah.
There he is. Wow!
Fear the beard.
Pops in every once in a while. It was a special show. We had to bring in, the wizard.
Speaking of that, all these are surprises for me today, including
right.
Don Schlitz, who just left. A little earlier, Charlie had mentioned yesterday he was encoring the last visit that my first ever guest, Charlie Daniels, made on the show with his memoir, Never Look at the Empty Seats. And so we heard that for the radio audience early, and then Don was just in and gave us a rousing rendition of Tattoo Redo to
Gosh, that's such a great song.
wrap up his visit. He's at the Opry
Yeah.
tonight. Opry Country Classics is going to be themed around my 30th anniversary, so all these people with whom I have shared a career and life and friendship since I got to town, and some long before I got to town I met.
Right.
Suzy Bogguss, T. Graham Brown, Don Schlitz, the Gatlin brothers, and I'm leaving out somebody.
Well, Marty Stewart is the spotlight
Yes, of
artist.
course, Marty
Yep.
Stewart, the Fabulous Superlatives. So,
Get ready.
yeah, they're in the spotlight tonight.
It's going to be a fun show. For everybody that's listening or watching, stay tuned because we got a lot more to come. And I love the fact that you don't know everything that's happening today. And I also threw out the idea of like having the people that you don't like or don't like you and just have them lined up and have them come in because that would be kind of funny too. It's like, oh, I was hoping I'd never see you again. Happy 30th.
And my mom and dad are gone, and Rebecca's parents are gone, but she has siblings. My brother and his wife couldn't make it, but her siblings and spouses are coming tonight. And
Oh,
of course, the kids.
Yeah.
And invited family members that feel like family, community members in Cross Plains. So it's going to be a big night.
Are the grandbabies coming?
Lily is coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Zay's just a little too small.
Yeah. He's going to stay home with dad.
Does she think the show is about her?
In all likelihood, yes.
Oh, good. That's what we were hoping for. I hope she just walks out on stage at some point and takes to the microphone and starts singing.
Well, she and Larry are tight.
Yes.
She made her first ever visit to an Opry Country Classic show, I don't know, within the last 6 months she went. And she and Larry hit it off swimmingly.
Oh, good.
He had her, he was in his director's chair sitting up on stage, had her up in his lap and the whole bit.
Oh, Larry is phenomenal with kids.
Yeah.
I've seen him there with his grandkids. He is so great with little kids. Yeah.
I hope that Lily
It's
gets her
adults
airtime
he's still
tonight.
struggling with. But,
I'll call her. I'll call Lily as her agent, and I'll tell her to demand at least a 5-minute spot. All right, coming up, we do have some entertainment headlines. Breaking news, we have a host for the ACM Awards coming up in May. I'll tell you all about that in just a few minutes.
Is it
Plus,
you?
No.
It should be.
I keep throwing my name out
You're
there.
a National Personality of the Year nominee. Come on.
I mean, one of these days.
Personality of the Year. What do they not understand at the ACMs?
They can't afford me. That's what it is.
You go, girl.
And we've got all the fun stuff behind Scotty McCreery's song, Why It Confused a Family Member of His. That's coming up as well.
Another reason to celebrate 30 years of Coffee, Country, and Cody is the induction of the newest member of the Grand Ole Opry family a week from tomorrow. And Charlie will be hosting, and it's the first time you've hosted an actual induction, right? You've hosted invites.
I've been there for 3 invites, but never an induction. So I am very, very excited
Charlie.
for next Friday, May the 3rd.
So that is a
And this is T. Graham Brown. For
By the
those
way.
of you on radio and those of you who are worth watching on our streaming platforms on Circle.
So that's going to be a career highlight for you, huh, Charlie?
It will definitely be. Yes, sir.
It's going to be a career highlight for somebody else in this room, too.
It's going to be a big career highlight for me, man.
I thought you were talking about Sheila. That too.
So-
Sheila's the one. She's standing over there grinning. I'm telling you, man, we've been having a lot of fun with this.
So can you tell us anything about next Friday? Or are there things that are a surprise? Or are there things that you don't even know?
I don't really know what there is to tell.
Did you ask for a particular person to induct you, or did you leave it up to the Opry to do that?
I asked Vince if he would do it.
Okay, because he's the one who asked you. He invited you.
And I asked him that day if he would induct me, and he said sure.
Where'd you first meet him when you got to town?
Golly bum. I don't where huh?
Tree? Did you say Tree?
Sheila's saying Tree.
Tree Publishing for people.
Tree Publishing. What, honey?
You were singing demos together.
She said we were singing demos together. I remember one of the very first times I remember meeting him was we were at the ACM Awards. I remember Tanya and I were up for a duo or something, and I was walking from the Sheraton. It was in Hollywood, and I was walking from the Sheraton Universal Hotel to the Universal Amphitheater, which was next door where they were having the award show, and I was probably 100 yards, and if I remember right, and this white limousine pulled up and rolled the window down, and it was Vince in there asking me if I wanted a ride. And I said, sure, and I got in the ride, wasn't but about 50 more yards, something like that. But that stands out in my memory. That would have been 90, 91, something
What
like
was
that.
it? Tom T. Hall wrote in Homecoming. In our business, we call it putting up a front.
Yes, putting up a front, no doubt. But yeah, well, I've been to answer your question, I've been knowing Vince a long time.
Well, it's special that you will share that night.
And
a week
you
from
know,
tomorrow.
when I was listening to Don Schlitz, who is a genius. Out the way, I saw him at the Ryman yesterday at the Elvis.
Yeah, he mentioned off the air that he had
which
been
was
down there.
really cool. You know, it's a display on the one time that Elvis was ever on stage at the Ryman, so it's a display about that particular night.
And Hank Snow forgot his name.
And
on
Hank
his
Snow
introduction.
called him that boy from Memphis. Yeah, he forgot his name. Bill Monroe was on there that night. Anyway, it's a neat little display. But Don was saying that Vince is wise. I think Vince really is wise beyond his years. I got so much respect for Vince, man. I'm intimidated by Vince. His talent just is intimidating to me, especially his writing. You know, but I love him very much.
And you asked me earlier, Kelly, if I remembered meeting Don the first time, and it took me a second, but I recollected meeting him at a writer's night in San Antonio when I was at KKYX, which is where I was previous to WSM. And I remember seeing this cat when I was in Orlando at WHOO opening for Ricky Skaggs, of all people. And you came out there in that leopard skin jacket doing that T. Brown thing and ensuring the audience, no matter what your music sounded like, you were as country, if not countryer, than anybody else at the Lakeland Civic Center that night.
Well, man, I've had a good career. I've had a wonderful career. It's amazing.
And how did you wind up? What do you remember about those days and getting the chance to go out and tour, open with Ricky?
We just had a lot of fun, man. All those big time shows like that were awesome for a guy like me that had never done anything like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I grew up in the clubs in Athens, Georgia. I spent 9 years in the clubs in Athens, Georgia, and then I moved to Nashville and sang demos for a couple of years, and then I signed with Capitol Records, and I tell it like it used to be, came out and was a hit, and they threw me out on the road with opening up for Kenny Rogers in 20,000 seat places. I mean, I had done 3 showcases in Nashville. One at an old place called Bogey's, one at a place called World's End, and the other at the Bluebird Cafe. And the Bluebird Cafe, how many does it hold?
50 maybe.
It
75.
was the biggest place I'd ever played in Nashville. I went from the clubs in Athens to the Bluebird to 20,000 people. And they threw me out there. I had no experience. I had no idea what I was doing. They threw me out there, and I walked out on stage, and all these people. I just made it up as I went, man. It was thrilling.
Go back. I want to talk about the demo singer days. Explain to people how does your day go when you're a demo singer in Nashville? Because so many people, that's where they started.
Well,
whether it was Trisha Yearwood or Joe Diffie.
Well,
or
it'd
you
be
or
like
Vince.
Don Slitz would write a song.
Uh-huh.
I assume that he had people sing his demos for him. I don't know. But the writer writes a song and turns it into his publishing company. Let's take Tree International, for instance.
Okay. Which was Buddy Killen, right?
Buddy Killen's company. It was the world's largest independent publisher going on. Bill Anderson is still, I think his copyrights are still there. Harlan Howard, Hank Cochran, Bobby Braddock, Curly Putman, all these is a big
like Dallas Frazier, Doodle, all those guys.
Just unbelievable. So these staff writers will turn in a new song. And there used to be a guy named Terry Choate. I don't know if you remember Terry.
I do, absolutely.
And Terry's job at Tree was to set up the demo sessions and hire guys like me.
Okay.
So he would make a cassette tape of the song, a rough demo of the song, tell me to come pick it up, that I was going to sing the demo like tomorrow. So I'd take it home and I would listen to it over and over and over, and I'd make little notes on a piece of paper, and then I would go in Nashville, sessions are at 10, 2, 6, and 10. 10 o'clock in the morning, it's a 3-hour session. There's an hour in between so that the players can pack up and get to their 2 o'clock session. There's an hour in between every session, so the singers and players will have time to get to the next session. So anyway, we'd come in at 10. The band would come in at 10. Eddie Bayers, who's at the Opry, is Eddie Bayers in the Country Music Hall of Fame?
He is. First ever drummer.
So you got all these players, Eddie Bayers, John Jarvis, Michael Rhodes was playing bass, Brent Rowan was playing guitar. All these guys were playing demo sessions back then. It was before they started playing on real records, on master.
So you're a demo singer, and they're demo players.
I'm a demo singer, and they're demo players, and we all wound up going on to bigger and better things,
I would say.
But yeah, we were all rookies, man.
And so who did the rough that they gave you? Would the writer
it'd
do
be
the
like
rough?
a guitar vocal.
Okay.
It'd be
and then
like
they give that to you.
And it'd be a guitar vocal, and then they'd give it to me. We'd go in at 10 o'clock in the morning, and Eddie Bayers and them, all of us would lay down a track, make sure the track was right, take a lunch break. I'd come back in at 2 and sing. It'll just be me. And I would make sure, and it would be, we'd be doing like 2 or 3 or 4 songs in one session.
Uh-huh.
It wouldn't be just one song. We'd go in there and cut tracks for 3 hours.
How much were they paying you?
$20 a song.
And you were hoping for multiple
$20
songs.
a song, and they took tax out of that. Oh, wow. So it was like $16 a song.
So you like working
but it
for
didn't
Opera
matter.
Union scale.
See, it didn't matter. The whole point of it was getting experience.
Oh, yeah.
That was the whole point. It wasn't for money. Sheila was working at Kastner Knott department store during the day and waiting on tables at a restaurant called Miss Daisy's Tea Room at night, and I was singing demos for $16 a piece to get experience. She was paying the bills.
T. Graham Brown's story, newest member of the Grand Ole Opry family. That happens 1 week from tomorrow, and he's here to help me celebrate 30
Yay!
years at WSM and the Grand Ole
Happy
Opry.
30th anniversary to you.
More Coffee, Country, and Cody is on WSM.
Welcome back to our television audience. You missed the sports break with Charlie Mattos talking about the Titans and the NFL draft, as we have an NFL franchise, of course, in our hometown. And T. Graham Brown was commenting when you were doing the Braves story about being at the first ever Atlanta Braves game, because they moved from Milwaukee, right, to Atlanta. It was a big deal. I want to say, wasn't Joe Torre catching for the Braves back in those days?
I think so. And Bobby Bragan was the manager. I remember that. But yes.
but
Guy
you-
by the name of Aaron played too.
I believe it was Aaron, Johnny Aaron, no, Billy Aaron, no, Hank Aaron.
One of the Alou brothers had to be there because they played for everybody over the course of time. Matty, Felipe, and
Jesus.
Jesus,
Yes.
yeah. The Alou brothers, again.
Or Jesus, depending on how you want where one wants
That's
to be
right.
pronounced. So, yeah.
And but the backstory that people didn't hear on television was the Little League baseball team, the Tigers that you played for.
Yes.
From what was your what hometown?
We'd have been coming from Araby, Georgia, but we played ball in Cordele, Georgia. But but Araby is where we were living. Little 300 population, and I'd never been anywhere.
And you stopped in Macon on the way to the big
At a
city.
truck stop.
Yeah.
And a minor bird was in there talking. And it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen in my life, man. A bird.
For a
was
country boy,
talking.
absolutely.
It was awesome. It really was awesome, man.
I had not thought about a minor bird in forever. That was a popularized thing where minor birds were on display in restaurants and truck stops.
It was talking too, man. I could not believe it that a bird could talk like that.
It's got to be a health code violation
I'd
at some
never
point,
seen it.
right? I mean,
I'd never seen anything like that.
Would you like a side of guano with that?
yeah, right.
T. Graham Brown sharing his story on his way to membership at the Grand Ole Opry. I'm curious, as a kid from Araby, did you and your family ever pack up and come to the Grand Ole Opry back in the old days?
No, man. My mom and daddy. My daddy didn't believe in music.
No kidding.
Never.
Where did you get it? Because you got such soul.
Well, our backyard backed up to the railroad tracks, and on the other side of the railroad tracks was where all the black people live. And
Right.
I would open my window up at the foot of my bed at night to get some air in there. And the first band I ever heard was the Black Church Band across the tracks. So that, and another thing that Don was talking about a while ago.
Don Schlitz was here.
I had a black 6-transistor radio, just like he said, 6-transistor, and I had that same 6-transistor radio glued to my ear all the time. And at night, I was scrolling through the AM dial just real slow and picking up those clear channel stations from across the country, and some of them were pop and some of them were R&B and some of them were country. Man, that was my whole world. That was my window to a ticket out of Araby, Georgia. That little bitty town, and I thought, man, I'd love to go to Nashville, or I'd love to go to Chicago, or I was just dream, man. It was just dream of and hoping and all that. But man, no, we didn't have any music in our family.
So once you got to town, which you were talking about when you arrived doing demos, and Sheila was working at Castronaut and waitressing, did you go to the Opry at any point then? Just as an audience member?
I don't think so.
Huh.
I don't think so.
Did you ever come with anybody and hang backstage or anything?
No. It was really too big time for me.
Huh.
I didn't know anybody that knew anybody like that yet. But no, I had never been to the Opry.
Who was your first artist connection in town?
Golly.
You and Keith Whitley ran around together, didn't you?
Oh man, we ran around together a lot. We toured together. We were like brothers, man. We had a blast. Yeah, I've told you this story, man. We were on the road together, and we came back into town to take a couple of days off. And I was at the house, and Sheila was there, and the phone rang, and it was Jack McFadden, Keith's manager. And we were friends, and we talked to each other all the time. So it was nothing unusual to get a call from him. Mm-hmm. So I answered the phone, and he said, "It's Jack." And I said, "What's going on?" And he started crying. He said, "Keith's dead." And I said, "No, man, don't even joke about that." And he said, "No, Keith's dead, man. We found him dead," and he was crying. So he said, I can't face these cameras. Can I send them to your house? And I said, yeah, I guess. And all the news people showed up at our house wanting comments. And
So he was among your first friends then, when I asked about the first connection you made?
yeah, well, he was one of them,
Yeah.
but I can't remember. That's a good question, Bill. Artist-wise, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I'm sure I ran into him. Oh, I know. The first time.
Here we go.
So one time, now here's a good one. So one time I was doing demos over at, I think it was called the Soundstage Studio. Anyway, Conway Twitty owned half of this studio. And you remember Conway drove those white AMC Pacer cars? You remember
Yes,
those?
I do now that you mentioned it.
He had two 1975 white Pacers, and you could tell if he was at the studio, one of them would be parked in the back of the studio. Anyway, so I'm in there cutting a session, and I'm looking down the hallway, and here comes Conway. He had his short pants on, and he's coming down. I thought, here's my chance. I'm gonna get to meet him. And dang, he turned into the men's room.
Oh.
So I thought, I'm doing it. So I went down to the men's room, and I went in there, and Conway was in front of one of the urinals doing his business, you know. And you know how there's a partition between the urinals so you can't see the other guy doing his business. So I just went in there and stood at the other urinal right next to him, acting like I was going. And so I looked over to him and I said, Conway, my name's T. Graham Brown. I'm in here cutting a session. I was wondering if you'd come in and listen to me. And I introduced myself to Conway Twitty while he was peeing. It was unbelievable. And so he said, yeah. And I walked out, and he came and stood in the doorway of the control room of the studio and listened about 30 seconds. Suddenly he looked at me and went, sounds good, T. And then he walked off. And I thought that was the greatest thing, man. So I guess maybe he was one of my first big star sightings.
Oh, gosh. And as long as I have known you, I never knew that story until this moment on my 30th anniversary at WSM. So appropriate that you would share a first-time story with me on your way to the Grand Ole Opry membership next Friday.
You know, and I'll tell you what, Conway is so funny that I later went on, after I got a record deal and had hits, I later went on to tour with Conway Twitty.
Oh, wow.
And we became friends. And you know what, can I tell you, and this ain't bragging, this is just how sweet Conway Twitty was. He was asked one day in an interview, hey, Conway, how does it feel to be the greatest singer? And you know what he said? He said, don't ask me, go ask T. Graham Brown.
Aww.
And it was the greatest compliment to me.
Absolutely.
So,
You heard it here.
So Conway was awesome.
On Coffee, Country, and Cody, the 30th anniversary show. Thank you. I love you and Sheila so much.
Oh, we love you too,
and she
dude.
baked me a batch of cookies, not just a few cookies, a batch of cookies. This time a full 10 of cookies and a sweet note for my anniversary.
We love you, buddy.
And I will see you tonight as we continue the celebration at the Grand Ole Opry with
Grand Ole
Suzy
Opry,
Bogguss
yes.
and Don Schlitz and Marty Stewart.
And I'll be
T. Graham.
singing a little Hank Williams
All
and
right.
a little Ernest Tubb.
Oh, great. And, of course, the Gatlin brothers will be there.
So we've been knowing each other a long time, right? We won't get into that. Happy anniversary to you. Happy anniversary to you. Happy anniversary, dear Bill Cody. Happy anniversary to you. I love you, Bill Cody.
Well, my gosh, Bill Cody, 30 years at WSM, and I'm not surprised at all. I think it was probably close to 30 years ago when you were the very first person ever in Nashville, or really anywhere, I guess, to put me on the radio. I've never forgotten that day that I walked into the Opryland Hotel and walking in there, bringing my guitar and sitting there with a couple of friends, and you let me play a song live on the radio, and it was a huge deal to me, and I've never forgotten it, buddy. So congratulations on 30 years, and I almost said let's hope for 30 more, but nobody wants to be in radio that long, buddy. Congratulations, go fishing, man.
Hey, Wild Bill, it's Vinny. Just wanted to say congrats on 30 great years. I've seen them all. I'm one of the only ones that has. So here's to the next 30. I'll be here for all of them. I hope you will too. Love you, buddy.
How sweet are those guys? Steve Wariner, Blake Shelton, Vince Gill. And Blake and I were reminiscing when I was in Old Red, Las Vegas for the grand opening last week. Was that last week?
Yeah, it feels like 2 years ago and last week.
I think it was last Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah.
You were gone. Yeah.
And we were reminiscing a little. And Amber White recently had a mutual friend who was a guest on the show when we were. It was related to Down syndrome awareness through Vanderbilt Health. And Amber sent me an email. Amber was on that show that morning with Blake, Amber White, when he played Old Red for the very first time publicly like that, over the air.
Oh, yeah.
And Sarah Majors, who had a hit on Tracy Byrd about that time, she was in, and it was a thing called Young Writers. And Vernell Hackett, who may be listening.
Vernell. Love you, Vernell.
Yeah, and Vernell introduced me to that group. And Amber wound up, that's who you hear the female singing on Old Red on the record, is Amber White.
You know who else was in that? My friend Pete Rose.
Oh, is that right?
He was Pete Mitchell at the time.
Okay.
And he was with Young Writers, and they all did like shows together.
Yeah.
It was Blake
It was
and
like a writer's
Amber
circuit that they played around town.
And then Pete, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, was on The Voice and ended up on Team Blake. And Blake turned around and he goes, I know you. And he said, hey, buddy. And he was like, Young Writers, Pete Mitchell, I remember, but his real name's Pete Rose. So, isn't that fun?
Yeah.
It's
Great
cool
man.
how it all comes together.
That's Kelly Sutton with the top stories in entertainment this morning.
And you're about to change time zones, too.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting on a plane after this.
You'll have a 26-hour day.
Oh, great.
Because you get 2 extra hours in California. No, look at it that way. That's a good thing.
Is it?
Yeah. No.
If I get to sleep some of those hours.
I meant it as a good thing.
Okay. I was like, oh, gosh.
A really good day is 26 hours of sleep.
If I could get a couple hours of sleep, it'd be great. Yeah. Oh, man.
Well, Kelly, congratulations again on being an ACM finalist, a nominee.
Thank you.
In the
Thank
National
you.
Personality of the Year category. And then you're on your way out with Amazon, right?
Yeah. So we're going to do Stagecoach, and I'll tell you guys how you can watch. That's coming up. But big announcement, breaking news, just announced the host of the 59th Annual ACM Awards will be Reba. Ba-ba-ba-ba.
She knows her way around the hosting world,
Right?
for sure.
How
Yeah.
perfect is that? So we just found out this morning. I mean, I knew, and I actually kept it a secret. Can you believe that?
No, I cannot.
I know. I didn't tell any of y'all. Because if I tell you...
That's how you found out. Yeah.
I know.
I'm hearing it for the
Because
first
if
time.
I told you, you'd probably do. So congratulations. Reba is going to be our ACM Awards host. That's going to be happening on May the 16th in Frisco, Texas. A lot of stuff happening down there at the Star, owned by
Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for calling Jerry Jones, Kelly. It'd be a pleasure for you to see me, Jerry Jones of the Dallas
That's
Cowboys,
my goal.
while you're in town.
Would you please get a photo with him?
That is my
Yes.
goal. My life's goal is to find Jerry Jones and to take a picture and to make him do a video just saying, hello, I'm Jerry Jones from the Dallas Cowboys. That's all I want. And so we can have it and we can compare and contrast when you do your impersonation.
If you ever look him in the eyes, you're done. It's like the Python in the Jungle Book. He
Listen.
will just draw you in. He is so charismatic.
He walked by me and I was like, oh, it's Jerry. And I don't even like the Cowboys. I mean, come on.
Kelly,
So,
I'm sorry. Everyone loves Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys.
America's team. Okay, well, let's talk about Scotty McCreery. This is so great.
I can't wait. I want to hear the end of this story.
Isn't this fun? So his latest song is called Cab in a Solo. If you were a little confused when you just heard that title, you are not alone. Apparently, Cab in a Solo threw his dad for a loop as well.
Oh, no kidding?
Yes. His dad was like, so is that like cab is like, what are you talking about? You're talking about drinking wine? And he's like, yeah, Dad, like Cabernet. Like he had to explain it and really draw it out for him so that he could have it. And then he finally said, oh, and solo's like a cup, right? Yeah, Dad. Can you even fathom like having to explain everything to your dad? And his dad's like, oh, well, so you're drinking by yourself in a cab of your truck. Oh, I get it. I just love that it like took him
Lost
so
in
long.
translation.
Oh.
I love
So
this.
was that his dad with the Tom Brady jersey
Yes,
on in
yes.
Foxborough? I love that.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
He said he pieced it together and finally he said, yeah, Dad, you got it. There it is. And he's like, oh, well, okay. I mean,
I have to admit, the first time I heard, I thought he was in a taxi. I was like, oh, it must be a cab, So,
cab.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Silver Oak 98, I believe, is the giveaway in there as you listen, right? And that's
yes, and I have a bottle.
Do you?
It's not of 98, but I do have a bottle of Silver Oak I have not opened yet.
Oh.
Okay.
It's very fancy.
We have a 30th anniversary celebration here this morning.
That is very true. If we started drinking at the top of the show.
Oh, man, the show will be so good right about now.
Whatever happened to the stash back in the back?
Oh, it's back there.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah.
We still got it? Okay, good. Good. We'll keep that.
Break seal in case of an emergency. I kind of feel an emergency coming on here for
maybe.
our 30th anniversary, Kelly.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Brothers Osborne. They have a new EP out. It's 4 songs. It's really interesting because there are 2 songs on there that are new and then 2 that were from a previous album that they did that was last year. And I actually had a chance to catch up with the guys. They came into the studio and did some stuff that's going to be on my weekend show coming up. But TJ said, you know what, Break Mine, who is their song, that's their song right now, they almost didn't do it. He said it was Shane McAnally, Pete Good, and TJ and John, and they said we almost didn't finish the song. It was about half done, and a few months went by, and then Shane, he said it might have even been a year. Shane texted and said, I just listened to this work tape. I think it's really good. I think we need to finish it. And they did, and now it is their current single. It's so good. The idea is if you're going to break a heart, break mine.
Oh, okay.
I mean, when you hear it, you're like, oh, yeah, I get it. So very, very good. So stay tuned because we'll have more from Brothers Osborne coming up. And real quick, headed out to Stagecoach. If you want to watch, if you're not going to be in California, best place to go is Amazon Prime Video. We're going to be live streaming. I start at 4 p.m. Pacific time on Friday, and I'll be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we'll be there until the wee hours of the night.
All right.
So,
and you'll be back on Tuesday here.
I'll be back Tuesday.
All right. Kelly Sutton, zip.
Coffee, Country, and Cody.
Kelly Sutton, please welcome surprise guests 3 and 4. They have now arrived. Don Schlitz was surprise guest 1. T. Graham Brown, his wife Sheila, surprise guest 2. And Kathy Mattea and Suzy Bogguss, guests 3 and 4. 30th anniversary of Coffee, Country, and Cody celebrated this morning. And then Suzy gets to do a double. Just like me, we're coming back to do the Opry tonight. Opry Country Classics and Marty Stewart, the Gatlin Brothers, T. Graham Brown, and you.
Are you going to stay awake for the whole thing?
I'm going to
He's going to take a nap, baby. You could write a course on how to nap. I bet.
Professional napper, right there. That's it.
Yeah.
You learn to do it, don't you, Charlie?
You won't nap. You'll just go straight through. I know you. She's like a human dynamo, this one. I've lived with her on the road. I've seen her go through a really long day, step into her dressing room, 30 minutes later, ta-da! It's Suzy Bogguss. I'm like, how did you do that?
Please,
Well, at some
spotlight right here, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
At some point, there's wine involved, though, right? So yeah, okay. And then you're at the Opry Saturday,
I'm at
Kathy.
the Opry Saturday night?
Yeah.
She sure.
Yeah, excited. I'm excited about coming back.
So one of the things that Kelly has asked this morning is, when do you first remember meeting these folks?
Yeah.
And I knew that I met Don in San Antonio at a writer's night at Fiesta, Texas, when he was there with Richard Lee and Tom Schuyler. And I'm thinking that, they're now all in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And I don't think one of them was in the Hall of Fame at that point.
Oh, wow.
And then T. Graham Brown, seeing him at the Lakeland Civic Center in Florida during my Orlando years, because we would promote shows, give away tickets on the air. And Lakeland was a great venue, and it was equidistant between Tampa and Orlando. We had a lot of audience there. So I saw T opening for Ricky Skaggs, and I saw Kathy Mattea the first time live opening for George Strait.
Wow.
I'm sure I had a perm. I'm sure. I would bet money there was a perm involved.
I don't remember your perm, but I do remember the leopard skin jacket that T. Graham Brown wore that night.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, wow.
Everybody remembers T back in those days. He was a character.
And
I remember that.
Was 84 your first year? So that would be...
I signed my record deal in 83, and I think my first single came out later that year, early in 84, but I didn't have a hit for a couple of years. Love at the Five and Dime hit in 86.
Okay. So you're coming up on a 40th anniversary.
Yeah, you know
celebration
what's
for
so funny? I need people like you to tell me that because I just don't count. I just don't think like I would not. I'm happy that people are tracking my life because it's all I can do to just get up in the morning, get done, to get here.
And your driver, John Vesner, who doubles as your husband in real life, is here this morning. The great
my
songwriter.
boyfriend. Mine's here too.
Is he?
He went for coffee.
He always goes and gets something down at the Starbucks
Yeah.
when he comes with
he
you.
has to. He's he has to eat in the morning or he gets hangry.
He expenses it later.
That's right.
Turns in his receipts.
That's good.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I met you the first time. I came here from KKYX in San Antonio to do, it was like their CMA Fest or Fanfare back in the day. It was one of the annual celebrations we have in town at Emerald Studio. We just had the
That
artist
big round
round
robin thing.
where the artists come through and we have visiting radio stations and you lease a studio, and we had leased from Emerald, and that's where I remember sitting upstairs looking and talking to you for the first time.
Oh, well, I'll be dang.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what year that was, but.
Well, I came here in '94, so early '90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. When did you have your first hit?
Well, I don't know if you call 14 a hit, but Cross My Broken Heart came out in '89, I think.
Okay. I remember a great scene. Kelly worked with Ralph Emery at Fox in her first job when she got to town.
She was.
You remember
7.
that? You remember that?
I love you.
Yes. You remember the night that you punked Ralph about holding up the CD to your ear?
Yeah.
It was great.
I did that completely spontaneously. I'm so glad it didn't turn bad.
And you explain to the audience what you did. You recall?
What was that?
Did you recall what you said?
Oh yeah, he was holding up a new CD of mine, and I said, I don't know. He was somehow I was like, oh Ralph, listen, what's it saying? And he's like held it up to his ear,
leaning into it,
and he said, I don't know what it does it's saying, and I said, it says, buy me. and you know how the squirrel I am. And I just thought, oh my God, he's going to never have me back.
But it worked perfectly. The audience loved it.
He
loved
laughed
it.
and they laughed. And oh my God, I was just like, I don't know why I did that. Why did I do that?
And for people who missed it earlier, Kelly was interviewing for the gig to work with Ralph, right?
I didn't know who he was.
And she was talking to him. You'd completed the conversation, correct?
Well, I grew up watching Ralph with full beard, shotgun red. That's the Ralph I knew.
Right.
And I had not seen him in a while.
And he lost a bunch of weight.
He lost a bunch of weight.
And he shaved the beard. He looked
got
like
some,
a different guy.
got some stuff done. Yeah. And he walked in. I didn't know. And I'm interviewing for this job, Mornings with Ralph Emery. And we had the best conversation. He just talked to me forever. And as he got up and started to leave, I said, I'm so sorry I didn't catch your name. And he turned around and looked at me. I'm Ralph Emery. And I was like, well, that was fun. I'm not getting this job.
You didn't recognize his voice?
I was just there to interview for this job, and I had no clue.
Oh my
y'all!
And he loved it.
Embarrassing, but he loved it. He loved the fact that I didn't, and I could give it back to him. And the thing with Ralph was you knew exactly where you stood with him.
That's right.
He either loved you or he never wanted to look at you again. Yeah. So thankfully, he loved me. So
I first met Ralph when I had to give a VIP tour at the Hall of Fame. And Ralph came through with some family, and none of the tour guys wanted to give him a tour.
They're probably scared to death.
You don't want to give a tour to the guy who knows more about everything you're going to say than you do.
Correct.
And finally, I looked at them and I was like, "Well, I wasn't the senior tour guide at the time. Senior tour guide, yeah. Still minimum wage.
Yeah, now you could be a senior tour guide.
Thank you, my friend. Thanks so much.
That's awesome.
So I went down and said hello, and he said, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Why did it take so long?" I said, "Everybody's scared of you, Ralph." And we kind of talked about that when I finally went on the show, on Nashville Now.
That is so.
Well, that was a real breakthrough moment. That was the Carson of country, right?
Oh my gosh, you think about it now. It was an hour and a half every night, prime time. And I remember being in frickin' France or somewhere and turning on the TV, and there's Ralph. Like it was all over the world. It seems like a miracle now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Some of my favorite times were when you were hosting. I was like a big advocate. I really was wanting you to be the host of Nashville Now because well, you're gorgeous for one thing. What
Can
a
we talk
gift
about how
to the
cute
world
he
to
was
see.
when he came to town with his hat?
Yeah.
We had these pictures of Bill
Crazy.
Cody in a hat, and I had not seen them, and I'm like, what is happening here, cowboy? Look out.
Yeah, I really wanted that job. It just didn't work out.
I know it.
And
that was
when
a
Ralph stepped away, Tom Wopat came. Well, Lorian and Charlie moved in,
Oh,
and then
that's
they went to the
right.
West Coast for a short time.
That's right.
Tom Wopat came in. That didn't work out, and that's when we went through that audition process that included Bob Eubanks and Katie Haas and me. And,
It was wild,
and ultimately, Gary got that job.
Rivers
And then
guy.
Nan Kelly would join him on
Yeah.
there as a sidekick
Golly.
and co-host. So
But it really was a wild time period. You know, we had so many opportunities to get out in front of people. But, you know, one of the things that I am so grateful to you for is through all these years when we were not on major labels anymore, but we still were making music and stuff, that you would let us come in and have moments like this. You know, I remember when Merle died, you and
Leroy.
You had Leroy and I come in, and it was just a magical day because we both had been such huge fans and stuff. But just the whole thing of you trying to keep like the thing that makes country music so different, which is the community. I mean, we have a community where we actually like each other, and we actually, do things outside of the business and outside of the shows together. So I appreciate that a lot.
More Coffee, Country, and Cody is on WSM.
Kathy Mattea, Suzy Bogguss in studio among our guests this morning. T. Graham Brown earlier, Don Schlitz. We aired an interview with Charlie Daniels earlier this morning. It was the last in-studio visit. He had written his memoir, Never Look at the Empty Seats. And we went back and Charlie
That's a good
found that,
title.
pulled it from the archive, and we shared that. And he was my first ever guest on my first date,
Oh,
30
my
years
gosh.
ago today.
I saw him when I was in high school,
Did you?
Wow.
and then got to sing on a record with him.
That's
And
No
so it was
kidding.
like a nice full
That's a
circle thing.
pretty wild,
Yeah,
do
Christmas
that kind
record.
of
I
stuff.
did a vocal.
So where did you see him when you were in West Virginia? You
At
said-
the Civic Center, which is now they call it I don't know, it's got some fancy name now, but it was the Charleston Civic Center.
Wow.
And I remember, Taz DiGregorio was his
Yeah.
keyboard player forever, and he had a 9-foot white grand piano with a tiny little Tasmanian devil right on the end. And we went up to the stage afterwards, and we were like, "Oh, look at that! They're so cool!" It was like, I didn't know then that was part of what was making me like, I don't really want to go to an office for a living. I think I
Get it.
try to do
I
something different.
get it.
I had actually a very similar experience. Like, this is the kind of stuff that we do on stage when
all
we're
the
doing
time.
this.
In
Welcome to
mid-show,
the
we're
show.
like, really? And that's right. We have to
Because
play
my
songs.
first concert was Michael Martin Murphey, and then I later sang on a record with him. So isn't that weird? I mean, awesome.
I know. We've done what do you mean your brother hunted squirrels? My mom and dad hunted squirrels. we actually had that moment on stage.
You ate squirrel as a kid.
We hate
All
you
the
had squirrel
time.
soup
Girl,
too.
Yeah.
With squirrel gravy, it's the best.
Her brothers nailed the skins to the side of her playhouse. My parents gave me the tails to tie onto the handlebars on my bike, which is really fun after rigor mortis sets in. It's really good times in West Virginia. Yeah. Yeah.
Flying.
Tell me your
stiff
country.
little tails.
So
The kids
off,
wouldn't play with me. I didn't know why.
off air earlier, there was earring envy going on in the studio.
they had
between the-
matching earrings
Well,
on today.
and then I asked, you guys were asking each other where you got your earrings, and I turned to Charlie, who wears one, and I said, "Where did you get yours?"
Piercing pagoda. It's actually two, but yeah. So
Do you ever change
And
them?
then Charming Charlie's.
Okay.
So,
Do you ever change them out?
Yeah, every once in a while, just to kind of freshen it up. But yeah.
Do you want to borrow one of these?
Oh, maybe for the
So
Opry
cute.
tonight. Pete Fisher did say my first Opry show I ever worked at, I made history. I was the first Opry announcer with an earring. Oh. I beat Kelly by a few years on that one.
Dang it.
Kind of makes me wish Hank Snow were still around when you made your debut.
There's a certain crew back then that I'm glad was not around.
Said about drums on the Opry,
Oh,
but I wonder what they would say about earrings on the
Bill
male
Monroe
announcers.
told Sam Bush when he saw him wearing sandals one night, he said, "That's no shoe for a man."
The Bill Monroe stories.
They're endless.
So
That was
classic.
a really good.
He's got good ones. Yeah.
He said to Sam or one of them, he said, "You're in that band, Newgrass Revival. You play that Newgrass stuff?" He said, Yeah. He said, "Yeah, I hate that stuff."
Sure did. He absolutely did.
I hate that.
He told Rick McClure one night, Rick was carrying his snare in the case, and Mr. Monroe thought it was a hat because it looks like a hat box.
Right.
He said, "What you got in there, boy?" And he says, "It's my snare drum, Mr. Monroe." "There's no music in a drum." And just walked off.
There's no music.
Rick waved at him one night. He said, "Don't you wave at me. You come over here and shake my hand. Don't you wave at me across that parking lot. You come on over here." And Rick said, "I marched over there."
And everyone calls him Mr. Monroe. Always called him
Yeah.
Mr. Monroe. You never called him Bill.
Yeah.
It was Mr. Monroe.
Big Mon. Wow. Well, Kathy Mattea and Suzy Bogguss are in studio this morning, and tonight we're going to celebrate this 30 years continues at the Opry with Marty Stewart as a spotlight artist at the Opry. You're going to be there.
Right.
We've got the Gatlin boys, as always. They're the staple at Opry Country Classics. It's Larry Host and Stephen Rudy by his side, T. Graham Brown and Don Schlitz. And most everybody that I've just mentioned has been in the studio at some point this morning. And then you're at the Opry on Saturday
night,
Kathy.
yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Do you have any
tune
fun
in.
stories that you can remember about Bill? Either funny or inappropriate somewhat, but still safe for radio?
Wow.
Oh, I don't
Maybe
think
you can
I
just
have
act it
any
out.
of those.
We don't.
No.
We're not supposed to roast him, are we?
Well, I did ask him last week. I said, "Do you want this to be like a roast for you?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, that's fine." And I said, "Oh, brother, you just opened up a whole new door."
No, I'm not much of a roasty person, especially with you. It's hard to roast you, Bill.
I know.
You're just really consistent.
One of my favorite memories, Nashville memories of that 30 years happened recently when you and I did a Bill Cody Presents show
right.
featuring Kathy, and we walked Music Row
We walked
together
Music Row.
and
That was
remembered
such a great-
what was.
We were like, but
Including your first apartment.
we went to my first house on Music Row where I lived upstairs and met my husband. And they let us go in and up to like this was my bedroom, and I had all the backstage passes on the inside door. When I was on the road with George Strait and stuff, I'd come home and put all my passes on the door, and I think they never took them off. I think they were still there.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is
it was really fun. Really fun.
You met John, your husband, who came with this morning. He needed a jumper. You needed a jumper.
No, what happened was, I had an old car. And I had a session at 10 o'clock the next morning. And so I needed to get a battery because my battery was dead. So I came downstairs and into the office manager's office, and I asked him, "Are you going to be here early tomorrow? I have a 10 o'clock session. Can you jump me so I can go buy a battery at Sears before my session?" And John was in the hallway, and he heard him. And he came back in, and he said, "If I come in early tomorrow, can I help you do this?" And he was like, "Yeah." And so the two of them fixed my car for me, and I left it running and went upstairs, and he followed me in. He said, "Hey." I said, "Yeah." He said, "You want to have lunch sometime?" I was like, "Yeah." We went to the Bluebird for lunch. It was our first date.
Oh my God. That
Yeah.
is so adorable.
I know. He said, her car was broke down, so I jumped her. That's his short version.
Wow.
You didn't know that story?
Okay.
That's well, you probably knew that story 20 years ago and had long forgotten it.
I remember you talking about you guys, like seeing each other there, but I don't remember the car thing or the whole jump you kind of thing. But never mind.
What car did you come to town in, Suzy?
What car?
Yeah.
I came to town in my camper truck. I had a Toyota Chinook that had a pop top and a toity and my own stove.
It had a
and-
toilet in it?
Yeah, had everything. It was the best for doing festivals because I didn't have to use the public toilets. I could just go to my own place. It was very, very nice. And of course, I had my dog and my cat, and rocking chair on top of it, so it looked like
Beverly Hillbillies.
Granny moving to town.
Because people may not know that you have a background in metal smithing, correct?
Right, but I did not build the camper.
It's a great story. It's a great story.
I could make it. Maybe I could fudge it a little.
She built her own home with her own hands.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. I mostly, I worked with gold and silver, like jewelry making kind of thing. But I did take a blacksmithing class one time, and I failed miserably. You cannot believe how hard you have to hit that stuff to make it move. It's hard. I made one horseshoe.
Do you have it still?
I don't know. I think I do. And also, I tried to make a door knocker for my dad, and it was the ugliest, most horrendous thing, but it did get a lot of laughs from him. So
put this on a hook by the door and go bam, bam.
It's hard to find a one-legged horse.
That's my thought, Charlie. And before we finish up, Mountain Stage. Tell us about your
Mountain
hosting,
Stage.
and for
Yes.
people who
Oh,
don't
my
know
gosh.
that you're doing that now.
Yeah, we had a great show last Sunday. I mean, we had Kim Ritchie on.
Oh yeah,
and that was really fun. I got to
because
sing
you got
with her.
new music, right?
She has a new album coming in a couple
yeah,
weeks.
just got
That's
an email on
really,
that.
really good. We had Betty LaVette on, who is a contemporary of Mavis Staples.
Yeah,
and so Betty LaVette is like in her 70s. She looks like she's about 30. They made it very clear she won't sing on the finale. She's just gonna come in, sing her song, and leave. So she sings. She dances her way off the stage. We always do a big finale sing along, and we did Knock on Wood. And when she heard the intro to Knock on Wood, when she heard that lick, it was like the Pied Piper, and she just came back out on stage. And I looked up, and there she was, and I was like, "You want to kick us off?" And she said, "Yeah, this song was written by a good friend of mine back in Detroit." It was like those are the moments, like these. And this guy from this band, John Langan, he's from Scotland. They're amazing. I'm like, oh, he's Celtic. He'll never sing a verse. He sounded like Steve Winwood.
Oh, wow.
He just lays into it. I mean, those are the moments. I have heard so many great singers and musicians. I just walk away full every time.
Yeah. Well,
It's a
and
great
you know how we
thing.
feel hosting the Opry, because it's that same sort of thing.
Yeah.
When those magic moments
I'm
happen.
going to be on the show in 2 weeks. Did you know that?
It's 2 weeks. It's May, isn't it?
Yeah, 2 weeks is May.
2 weeks is in 2 weeks.
Oh, it's in May.
Next
I
Wednesday's
know.
May. Yeah.
I know. Oh, gosh. There's someone, she's done something in country music. I don't know exactly who she is, but we're glad she's here. Suzy Bogguss.
It's great. I can't. I'm tuning in.
I'll
for
be
that.
looking forward to it.
No, she's going to be out. We're going to sing together, I think.
Yes.
I've been practicing.
And
I
listen.
hope I'm practicing the right thing.
After 30 years, I cannot top that.
Well, there's somebody who is absolutely excited to talk to you and wish you well on your 30th. You know her. You love her. She is joining us right now on her phone. Hello and good morning, sweet Carly Pearce.
Hi.
Hi.
It's my appearance. I just completely spaced and pulled over on the side of the road because I realized it was 9:45 and I had somewhere to be, and I just could never ever miss an opportunity to say congratulations to one of my favorite people in the whole world.
Carly Pearce has joined us. You superstar, you. That was so funny, that little piece you did that they shared the other day where you said it. I married you, but my career had lasted 29 years longer than your marriage. And I thought,
I love her.
only you could make that funny.
When I made that video, my assistant was videoing it and she goes, "Well, that's a unique video."
It's been our favorite so far, I got to tell you, of all of them that we got.
Oh, gosh. And we have to go back to when we met, which was backstage at the Opry. Carly, you were the guest of Jeannie Seeley. Were you on her guest list that night? You were cleaning Airbnbs and trying to make a living in country music in this town.
Yeah. And I obviously knew you and knew just how important you were to country music. And you asked me what I was doing. And I said, well, I'm Jeannie Seeley's friend, I think you said to me, "I bet you're a singer." And I said, "I am." And you invited me to come on WSM when I had nothing going on, and was still trying to figure out how to pay my bills. And you put my songs on the radio, and it's just been really, you think about now, 8 years later, 7 years later, about the people that were your champions before others, and that gave you opportunities in the beginning. And now it's because of people like you, I want to pay that forward to other people in the music industry. And so I'm just grateful for your just support of me long before anybody cared.
I remember asking her, I said, "Did you have some music?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, send it to me." And I gave her my email address. I said, by the time I got through with the Opry and got to my car, my phone was full of Carly Pearce music. I was listening to it, and I went, "Hey, this girl's got it." That was my immediate reaction. And the quality of what you sent me was extraordinary for somebody who didn't have anything going on at that point in time.
And Carly, you said 6 or 7 years. This June it'll be 10 since your first visit with us. June of 2014.
10 years? Oh my gosh. Wow.
We're a 10-year show, Carly. That's you've heard of 10-year towns. It's a 10-year show.
10-year town, 10-year show. That is, I mean, I feel like I used to come over a lot because I lived so close, and it was such a treat for me. And I feel like you got to be on this whole entire ride for me since Every Little Thing, and you've become such a dear friend, and it's so sweet.
And one of the sweetest parts of this whole story is getting to know your folks, your mom and dad, along the way.
They love you. Anytime they're coming to the Opry, they're like, "Is Bill here?"
So catch us up. Oh, go ahead, Kelly.
You've got a new album coming out June 14th. You're here. Drop it out there. Hummingbird.
Yes. Well, actually, so yesterday was my 34th birthday. Wah, wah. And I'm getting old. And I announced that the album is actually going to come out a week early, right before CMA Fest. So on June 7th. I'm very excited. A lot has happened to me in the last few years, just of really amazing things that came out of a really hard situation. And I named this album Hummingbird because a lot of people say that hummingbirds are a sign that healing can begin and that good luck is on the way. And I feel like that's kind of been what has been going on in my life over the last few years.
Carly Pearce, perfect way to close 30 years of Coffee, Country, and Cody. I love you dearly. Thank you for making time, all right?
I love you so much, always.
Purnell's Old Folks Country Sausage, because it's good.
So we are back 30 years completed. We're going to do it again tonight at the Grand Ole Opry. I'll have Larry, Steve, and Rudy Gatlin, and Charlie Mattos will be hosting. I'll be there with my family. Rebecca will join me, my wife of 44 years. We honeymooned at the Grand Ole Opry, as a matter of fact. A couple of 20-somethings back there in Section 10 watching the Grand Ole Opry. See you tomorrow.